Is Kakashi an Inuzuka? The Inuzuka clan, for those of you who don't spend your nights studying Naruto or rewatching it, is Kiba's clan. You know, the clan that uses all the ninja dogs. Actually, this feels like a really good time to show everybody something. I'm not being paid for this sponsorship. My girlfriend found this company called Personify on TikTok, and they sell like anime collars and leashes for cats and dogs. So, her being a genius, she bought a collar for our dog. Look at this. He's a rogue ninja. Come here, my boy. Together, we will get revenge on Konoha. We will avenge Itachi's death. Now everybody will know he's my dog. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Kakashi. I know what you're saying.
We know that Kakashi's not an Inuzuka. Nick, he's a Hatake.
But I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you, who are the Hatakes? Listen, I'm the guy who knows. And even I don't know who the Hatake are. So let me make this little video here and show you exactly why Kakashi is a member of Kiba's clan, the Inuzukas. But before I start convincing you of this theory, how about I convince you to please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. So there's actually a lot of evidence for this theory. And while some of it may seem kind of circumstantial, it's too much to scoff at. Let's start with an argument that actually has nothing to do with even Kakashi. The first point that actually points to Kakashi being part of the Inuzukas has to do with his father. His father, Sakomo Hatake, was referred to as the White Fang. Obviously, the white part was because of his hair, but why the fang part? You could make the argument that it was because he was so incredibly deadly, being theorized to be stronger than all three of the legendary Sannin put together. But if it's just because he's powerful, why did they choose the word fang? Why not use the word sword? Because he was so famous for using the short sword that he gave to Kakashi. I mean, there's a whole clan who only know how to name their jutsus with the word fang. But since we're talking about clans, let's talk about the Hatake clan. It is entirely possible that Kakashi could be a part of the Inuzuka clan, but not have the Inuzuka last name. Literally, all it would take for that to happen would be maybe if Sakamo's mother was a member of the Inuzuka clan, but she married outside of the clan to a person who had the last name of Hatake. We know this because of Mukai Kohinata, a character from Itachi's light novel who was a spin-out of the Hyuga clan. Essentially, his parents separated from the Hyuga clan many generations ago and married outside of it, acquiring the last name of Kohinata. But this didn't stop Mukai from having a Byakugan in one eye. Or look at Sakura, who was a Haruno, but now she is an Uchiha. So I guess the real question here is, it's not whether or not Kakashi is an Inuzuka, it's whether or not his ancestors were. But since we're talking about Kakashi, let's talk about Kakashi. In the early episodes, in the early chapters of Naruto Shippuden, when Sakura and Naruto are redoing the bell test, Naruto tells us something very interesting. Naruto is essentially rallying on about how strong Kakashi is, and how it's going to be so difficult for them to acquire the bell. He's saying it's going to be hard because Kakashi is smarter than Shikamaru, and can smell better than Kiba. He also says his taijutsu is better than Rock Lee's and his Sharingan use is better than Sasuke's, but the point we're focusing on is that he says his sense of smell is better than Kiba's. And here's the thing, that's the Inuzuka's whole bit. Because they have co-evolved with ninja hounds in a way, they themselves have started to take on dog-like abilities, one of which is super good smelling. This is why Kiba was sent out on the Sasuke retrieval arc. And it's why the Inuzukas are so heavily involved with the Konoha police force, because they're really good at finding things. So we have to ask ourselves, how on earth would Kakashi have a better sense of smell than the people whose entire gambit is smelling? I mean, Kiba's sense of smell is so good. When Naruto farted in his face during the Chunin exams, it knocked him out. And Kakashi's is better than that. In fact, Kakashi's sense of smell is so good that he was able to sniff out Naruto and Sasuke when they were fighting at the Valley of the End so that Sakura could find them after their fight was over. Nobody had any real sense of where Naruto and Sasuke ended up after their fight, but Kakashi was able to use his knowledge of how Naruto smells and track him with that. And you could just say Kakashi's an incredibly talented ninja, and being able to track people is a part of that, but it looks a bit suspicious, doesn't it? You know what else looks suspicious? Kakashi Kakashi's disguise. What am I talking about? Am I talking about his mask? I'm talking about the disguise that Kakashi puts on when he walks around Konoha not dressed as himself. You know those filler episodes where we actually finally get to see Kakashi's face towards the end of Shippuden? Kakashi walks around as a photographer so he can ask people questions and get his fingers on the pulse of Konoha without people being like, oh my God, that's Kakashi. And that's great and all. We get to see Kakashi's face finally when he takes off the costume. But what's most important is the costume itself. More importantly, the eyes of the costume. Kakashi dons a purple eyeshadow with 2 purple stripes that descend from his eyes down below his nose. Kind of like 2 stripes down his face of purple. And while the color may not technically be correct, this looks exactly like the facial markings that the Inuzuka clan dons. Prominent members of the Inuzuka clan have these red fangs that they wear on their faces. Fun fact, these red fangs are actually a homage to Princess Mononoke. Kishimoto is actually a really big fan of Hayao Miyazaki's work, and I mean, aren't we all? But regardless, this seems like Kakashi either subconsciously or consciously signaling that his alter ego is him as an Inuzuka. Some people say that this purple is very similar to the purple patches that Rin wore on her face, and that when Kakashi is in this form, he's essentially trying to live the life that Rin would have wanted to live at his age. But that seems weird because, you know, he blew her back out. If I killed one of my best friends, I wouldn't want to be like,
Ooh, time to get dressed up as him.
you know, what's next? You gonna dress up as the Rock you thought killed Obito? But we haven't even touched on the most important and most powerful points in this theory. The dude summons Ninken. Ninken, by the way, are ninja dogs. Kakashi can summon 8 of his very own ninja dogs. Mine is not looking. And each of these ninja dogs wears a leaf headband protector. They are all certified leaf Ninken. But here's the thing, they don't look like Inuzuka Ninken, and that's actually a point for this theory. See, Inuzuka Ninken are basically just wolves. Look at Akamaru, look at any of their Ninken. They all look like husky wolf dog type mixes. But this theory states that Kakashi's family spun out of the Inuzuka. They didn't have access to the breeders making these massive Ninken. The Hatakes, or just Kakashi himself, only had access to the dogs around him, but he still had an affinity for dogs. So to make up for the fact that he couldn't access this very powerful breed of dogs, he got as many as he could get his hands on. And this left him with 8 very different dogs. This point is further evidenced by the fact that one of his dogs is blind, one of his dogs is covered in bandages, and one of them, Pakun, can talk. Kakashi can also summon these dogs all together or separately, which means he had to sign a sealing contract with every single one of them. Almost like as he encountered them, he made a sealing contract with them. But just because these were random strays doesn't mean that they're not very powerful. In fact, they're insanely powerful. And that's because Kakashi had the training from his father and his father before him on how to raise ninja dogs. Kakashi's Ninken can talk with Pakun, all walk on water, formulate combat strategies, and hunt down enemies for Kakashi. In fact, Kakashi has taught them to use a technique called Summoning Earth Technique Tracking Fang, where one or all of his Ninken can go underground to follow a scent of an enemy that Kakashi is tracking. And once they arrive at that enemy's scent and find the enemy, they pop out of the ground, grab the enemy, and hold him still so that Kakashi can run them through with the Chidori. Fun fact about these dogs, though, the little face on the back of all of their jackets is actually called, I'm gonna mess this up, a Hino Hino Moheji. Hino Hino Moheji is a way that a lot of Japanese school children draw faces on scarecrows. This is kind of hard to explain, but essentially Hino Hino Moheji is the sound made when you say all of the characters in the way that this face is drawn. Essentially, the way that you draw the face writes out this word. In Kakashi, in Japanese, means scarecrow. So Kishimoto kind of threw it in there. But here's the thing, Kakashi's Ninken aren't even the last thing that ties him to the Inuzuka clan. Kakashi frequently uses jutsus that have dogs in them. Look at his Earth Release Earth Style wall. On the face of his Earth Style wall, there's a bunch of dogs. And while these faces look a lot like the face of Bull, his biggest dog, it's still kind of interesting that he would incorporate dogs into an Earth Style release. I mean, this Earth Style release did not become any stronger because he carved the face of Bull into it, but maybe it was mental for him. By adding his dogs onto this jutsu, he felt it would become more powerful, showing that his power grew grows in correlation with the power of his dogs, just like in Inuzuka. That's it. That's the whole theory. I know it may seem like it's tied together with chewed bubblegum and duct tape, but you have to admit there's too many coincidences to say it's not possible. Also, it technically makes Kakashi infinitely more interesting because the Hatake's are limited to literally just him and his father, but the Inuzuka are a full-ass clan in Konoha. So maybe if I made your favorite character a bit more interesting, or I gave you another reason to love Kakashi, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Listen, I know I'm the guy who's always like, this person isn't from the clan that Kishimoto tells me they're from. Kishimoto also doesn't show me anybody's parents, so I kind of have to be anime Jerry Springer and figure out who the father is.